In this next special guest episode of Meet the Plug, I'm joined by Anne Bovelett, who is an international speaker with over 20 years of web experience and specializes in website accessibility. Anne will share her professional journey into accessibility, along with some insights on her favorite tech, automation processes, and business advice for you folks who think this shit is just a joke.
What, you amateurs are supposed to be helping me? You? Look at you. You're kids. You're not ready to roll with this. I mean, look at the way you dressed. Well, that's supposed to be tactical? What is this? What is that?
Suck you.
It's a joke, huh? What the heck is wrong with y'all? You think this is a joke? You think this is a freaking sitcom?
Okay, first off, that's just rude. Second, I'm pretty sure we saved your ass back there.
I'm impressed.
Look, Blade, my father meant for us to help you. Like it or not, we are all you got.
Rookies.
Without further ado, let's get Anne plugged all the way in. But first, let me plug in that intro. Meet the plug, meet the plug, meet the plug, meet the plug. I'm your host, Maestro Stevens, the fresh prince of WordPress, and your plug-in for the plugins. On this podcast, we discuss everything in the world of WordPress, trends in tech, and making big business moves. So stay tuned as we deliver you a silver spoon of the juice, straight, no chaser, to you content creators. Now welcome to Meet the Plug WP, where we deal dope tech shit. Let's start off with this because I know you like to go by Anne, and you give people mercy when it comes to pronouncing your whole name. You gave me mercy. So I want you to pronounce your whole name so the audience hears it, even if they can't say it correctly, and who you are and where you're at and what you do for a living.
All right. Okay. Well, officially my full name is Anne-Mieke Bovelett. For the people from the Netherlands, they will now immediately detect this very Dutch accent when I say that. But like you say, having mercy on the people around me. If you call me Anne, that is fine. I will listen to that too. Yeah, so I come from a very internationally oriented artist family and a couple of nutty professors. I even have that in my bio somewhere. And people always seem to think I'm joking about that, but it's true. There were some inventors and professors in my lineage. But I had a very old dad. He was from 1921. He was an Oscar-winning animator. And so my youngest cousin, when I first met him, was already in his 50s. And I think I was like 5 or something. So my aunts felt like grandmas, you know. So they're all artists. I think one of the things that gave me was that they were always thinking in possibilities, not in impossibilities. Don't we know we have this expression in Dutch where people who always see problems, when you come up with an idea, we say, they're seeing bears on the road. You know, the bears on the road. And then one day my mom just said, you know what? If you see a bear on the road, hug it to death. So, so I got that with me all my life. And that is actually a blessing because I didn't know it officially, but I've got diagnosed with ADHD when I was 49. And that actually explains a lot why I have had a pretty bumpy career in such a way, bumpy as in having done several things before I even started into the web development and design business.
Hmm.
I actually created my first website, I think 1997 or 1998, and I went in the web design business full time in 2008. Which, if you look at it, it's probably like, whoa, that's a long time to start doing that when you come from an artist's family. Well, it was because I come from an artist's family, because I hated it as a kid that in February we only had bread and peanut butter on the table, literally. And in March we'd fly to New York with the entire family. This financial up and down. Oh man, I hated that. And when you're a kid, kids are ruthless to each other. So
Yep.
the society was so judgmental about it. And when you're young, and even as an adult, but I think as a kid even more, you want to fit in. So this is why it was bumpy. I've always been trying to fit in, not realizing that that sense of being different from others was actually a factual thing, and not just something in my brain, or in my mind, as you'd say. And that has kind of painted my career. And then I started creating websites, and I had my own agency, and it was full service because I can do a couple of things. Normally people learn one trade, and I really envy them. If you're really good at one trade and you enjoy that, you're blessed. You don't know it maybe, but you're blessed. Because if you know several trades, it means you're always bored, in my case. And yeah, getting the bore out is an absolute risk. And then when I discovered the biggest passion of my life, so in 2020 being accessibility, I stopped being bored out, because it affects every aspect of what I've been doing and what I am doing. So that's a bit of my background, where I'm at right now. Because I'm part of that target group in a way that most people don't expect. And it's very how do you say that? Satisfying is the wrong word. I don't know. This is of course the language barrier, because I know my English is not bad, but I don't always find the right words. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's the beautiful part about being able to speak our minds the way we want to speak them. And sometimes people just have to take what they can get and process it the way that they can process. The beautiful thing about that is that we help each other translate, when we
Yeah.
ask questions or when we recap or summarize, or just show that we're attentively listening to each other. I think that helps with the translation. But it seems basically that you have background that people can relate to, a colorful background, or some people would say a crazy ass background, and we all got some shit. We all got some
Yeah.
shit in our
Yeah, I
background.
do. It's just that sometimes people actually do look at my LinkedIn profile, and then they get all confused because they see me as that accessibility person, web design, development, creativity. And then they look back a little further, and then they can see that I've actually had a career for 22 years, working at big companies, small companies, as a recruiter for 8 years. I've worked in the legal sector, I've worked in IT, I've even worked in real estate.
Hmm. That's
And that's kind of wild.
basically, it was like you were saying, being more honed in is even better sometimes than being a jack of all trades, or sometimes people call it a jackass of all trades.
You
But
jackass. Yeah. Well, there's this saying where they say jack of all trades and master of none.
yeah.
I know many people, because we attract each other like magnets, apparently, who are jacks of many trades and master of many trades. It's just, if you are blessed to have many trades, it is also risky because sometimes one trade is a stick in the wheel of the other trade. Just to give you an example, hey, we are building websites for people, right? And we all know this frustration. You're like, you created that preliminary design, you've been wireframing, and then you're waiting for the content.
Yeah.
And then you have to run after them for the content. What if it is you who also has to write the content and suddenly you're not inspired anymore? Then you're
That's
the
a
stick
good
in your
one.
wheel. Yeah.
Yeah, you become the stick in your own wheel, and that's. You ever seen a person riding a bike, and then there's this little kid? Sometimes it's an adult, but I'm just gonna pick on the little kids real quick. And this person is riding the bike down the street, and the little kids are playing the game where they trying to throw the stick in somebody's wheels or riding the bike. It's like you're both the kid and the person riding the bike sometimes in life, but the stick in your own wheel.
Yeah. I actually did that to someone literally one day.
Oh shit!
And it was I up until today, and anyone can judge me as much as they like, I still don't feel any remorse because we were riding bikes to school. It was a 15-kilometer ride one way, so I would say almost 1 mile. 10 miles, sorry. And then there was this part of the route was a long mild slope down in the morning, and there was this stupid kid on a moped whose joy in life was driving past us smaller kids and pushing us over. He did that to people every day, every single day. And at some point I got so mad because I was getting in trouble for it, because I'd get home and my dad would flip out because my bike needed another repair, or because I had a how do you say, I was black and blue from toppling over. So one day I decided that my fear of doing someone to someone else in retaliation was less big than the fear of my dad, not his anger but his sadness, over this. And so I got a stick in the wood and I waited for this guy to pass me by. And while he passed by, I stuck it in his wheel. Ooh, he went flying.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And he never did it again. And that was an important lesson in life. Sometimes you have to stand up to a bully, especially when they least expect it.
Yes, especially you got to catch them off guard.
Yeah.
That's those lessons that they remember. If they don't retaliate, they definitely remember it.
Yeah.
So let's move into our first segment here called "That's My Word."
Say another motherfucking word, and this shit is over, and I ain't playing, nigga.
Since you were able to paint the picture with your words of your background and how you grew up, having a loving father and a loving mother, and also having some challenges yourself, some disabilities that turned into your strengths, turned into some of your passions. How did you get into WordPress, and what did make you, going to your point, pretty much turn into a magnifying glass when it came to your practices, your focus now, especially in the world of accessibility?
Yeah, it's a pretty straightforward thing, actually. When I started building websites, I thought it was a really good idea to build a site and then have people pay me to update the content. Until I discovered that was actually something I hated to do. I love the creative process. I like to create designs. I like to set up the ideas. I even love to set up the marketing around it, for example. But people calling me day and night, can you update this page for me? It drove me up the wall. And then I learned there was something like a CMS. So it was like 2007. yeah, I discovered WordPress and I found it very interesting, but I wanted all kinds of things from WordPress. All of a sudden, realizing that I could have my customer update their own content, that there were parts that they could not update where I wanted them to. And at the time, I didn't realize that what I was looking for is called custom fields. I didn't know, I was not so technical.
Yeah.
And I had another issue because I living in Europe and especially in the Netherlands, there are so many companies that present their information in more than one language. So I needed multilingual. And so I hung out at another open source CMS called CMS Made Simple for almost 10 years. And I ended up being part of their core team, not as a developer, but as the person for PR, marketing, and communication. But still, uh, sometimes you have to look around and realize that there is no such thing as the one final super tool for everyone. So I walked away from CMS Made Simple, or not walked away, but I kept it on the side when I discovered that WordPress had been evolving very much and that you could do multilingual projects with it. And then there was this other thing called responsive websites. I had customers that understood, around 2011, 2012, when the smartphones, tablets, and all that came up, they understood that they needed a responsive website, but they were like, we never counted with this. We don't have the budget. And then I needed to find a way to be of service to them with a responsive website in a way that we would all benefit. So I discovered that there were great responsive templates for WordPress. And I said to my customers, well, if you are willing to dial down on your wishes, how you want something to look, I can actually use these templates and adjust them to your needs. But then at least it will be responsive. So that's where I started using WordPress more and more. And then I started to get nerdy. I mean, I'm not a developer by heart. I know HTML, CSS, and I can write a PHP function, but only if I have to. And once I figure out how to write that function, I put it in. I will tell you, I forgot how to do that 2 days later. It's like I need it right now. So I've been working like that. I've been doing other stuff around WordPress and also in my own business career. At some point, I realized, like, hey, I don't like repetitive work. I don't like inefficiency. How can I automate the crap out of some things?
What? You too?
I so wanted to automate things. And then I started to build a food blog, which was actually intended as gamification for myself and my health. I had desperately needed to lose weight. I was way over 100 kilos. You guys count in pounds, right? In the US. I don't know how many pounds is 100 kilos. Do you know it?
I have no idea.
No,
I
me
could
neither.
ask ChatGPT.
Yeah, we could. Well, it's probably like 200 pounds or something. Anyway,
Okay.
I'm not that tall. And I gamified it by creating this blog. And then I realized, if I want to make money out of this on the side, I need to market this well. And I would like to have high click rates. Oh, and then I discovered structured data.
Hmm.
And then I was like, I can automate this with custom fields. But hey, man, I don't want to learn how to code all that right now. I just want to do it. I ran into Elementor and I was like, wow, Elementor is fantastic. I loved it. I jumped right into their community, me and my big mouth in the Facebook group. And long story short, I've been in that Facebook group for about what, 7 years now, 8 years, I don't know. But pretty soon I became a community leader, they call it back then. I was a moderator on Facebook, and I loved working with Elementor until 4 years ago I ran into accessibility. And I know people who've been listening to other podcasts with me before, they're going to hear this example over and over again, but I can't help it. I saw this tweet by a woman named Lorene who wrote that her father was on the phone crying because he couldn't manage to be on the web for a day or a week all by himself because he's blind. And it feels like a world that doesn't want him. And she, in this tweet, she's like, if you now wonder if your site is accessible, then it sure is not. Go and learn. And that is what kind of booted me straight into accessibility. And I wanted to learn everything about it. And I felt really bad for a long time thinking, oh, wow. So since 1998, I've been creating inaccessible things, closed doors, closed windows. It's, I felt horrible. And there are times when I revisit old projects where I can, and sometimes I just secretly fix things under the hood, and sometimes I don't. But when I can, I will. Um, and that opened up a whole new world. Um, in regard to a lot of things, because accessibility has so many faces and so many aspects. It's not just about WordPress, it's about any tool that you use. It is about output, code output. Can you trust the tool that you use to output correct code? Because that one line of code that is messed up by the developer, usually without bad intentions, can actually shut down access for someone completely to a website. And I started looking into Elementor, into Divi, into later on Oxygen came up, Bricks, all of them.
Yep.
And I just kept looking like, hey, how are you guys doing on accessibility? And I mean, it's really difficult in the beginning when you start into accessibility. So anyone here listening, thinking about getting into that, in the beginning, you're gonna be very judgmental. You're gonna be full of anger and surprise, thinking, but you coded this wrong, and then you discover that because the products that you use, you love them so much that you've put the developers and the owners on a pedestal.
Yep.
And they topple off that pedestal, and you have to realize that you are the one that put that person on the pedestal in the first place. Never forget that, because we have a lot of anger in the accessibility world, and I get it. I had this anger too in the beginning, and I can imagine if people are whacking doors in your face, every time, every day, sure, you get angry. I understand that. So I was looking into all of these tools, and I was talking to Elementor as well about their accessibility, and they were telling me, we are trying, we are working on it, but it's a large code base, and this goes for a lot of products. So the younger page builders, the new ones, the new kids on the block, they don't have such a hard time as the ones with an older code base, because you have to be very careful about backwards accessibility, for example. So and suddenly I found myself swimming in a world of code, because I had to understand code and development a lot more than I did before. And the same thing about design and about content. And then I was toppling into that dangerous pit of jack of many trades again. Right? But now it's with a purpose. It's highly focused. So Yeah, that's actually where I'm at now.
Okay.
Telling people like, hey, it's not an all-in-one. Do you expect the architect to dig the holes in your garden to put your plants in there?
No.
And people are like, no, of course not. And then I said, well, don't expect accessibility to be your all-in-one thing. It goes for development, it goes for design, it goes for content, it is a layout, it goes hand in hand with user interface, with user journeys, with user optimization, and it's so broad. And at the same time, it's so easy to chop it up in segments that I will never stop finding this fascinating and rewarding to work with and work in. Yeah.
You are someone who does a great job at being not only yourself, but being able to dumb down and explain, things in a very simple way, which helps me, and I'm sure it helps our listeners and the audience too, for those who don't know about accessibility. Because based on what you're saying, almost being 20 years in WordPress, and doing what you've been doing longer than that, sometimes when it comes to learning this new accessibility path, I'm just going to call it that for now, you are going to probably need, based on what Anne using the word anger, you're probably going to need an accessibility therapist at some point.
Wow, that's a great way to say it. Yeah.
Because to your point, and you had wrote um, a little recently about this, and you called some things out, and I love that. That's why I like that you are authentically yourself, unapologetically yourself. You've been doing what you've been doing long enough. That's why I gave about 20 years, but you've been doing things longer than that, as far as being an expert. And you pretty much called out, folks saying, "Hey, I ain't fucking with you if you don't know these preliminary stuff. I don't even hit me up about accessibility, this or that. If your code ain't right, you need to get your home straight before you
Oh, yeah.
you,
I
you know."
remember this is the post on LinkedIn where I told everybody, okay, I'm done discussing now. From now on, you'll have to be able to work with Great Suite.
Yeah, yeah, that's a big call out right there. That's
That's a
something
big
that,
call out, yeah.
yeah, that I
But it's
love
one I
that you
can
did that.
make. It's one I can make. Because I'm working with them on accessibility because I called them out first
Mm,
internally. So when I met them, that and they showed me what they had created, this insane tool set. Um, I was like, okay, before you make me fall in love with what you have there, can you tell me if this generates accessibility ready output? And it turned out that they too were not really aware of that, and of what that actually means, an accessible website. And I love them for admitting it immediately. And we're talking about way back, so 2.5 years ago. 2.5 years is a long time in web development, and they were willing to start working on that and going on that journey immediately. And that journey is still ongoing. And this is something important for everyone or anyone. Of course, we have legislation, we have the threat of legal actions with compliance laws, with the European Accessibility Act. But that's coming from no, that's coming from fear.
mm,
I don't like that because fear incapacitates people. Fear makes creative people dry up. And if you come from yes and like, okay, let's work with tools that are doing great, where we can trust the code output to be great, you can have all your creativity. You can fire it. You can work with it, and rest assured that it's okay. I mean, it's like a car, right? When you
right.
when you buy a car, when you have children, would you put your kid in that car knowing that the car is not fully functional. You don't really know where the problems are, but you're not sure if these problems are gonna arise. And then would you let someone drive that car with your kid in it for 1,000 miles? Of course you wouldn't, right? And this is the same with your business. Your business is your kid,
Hmm.
right? So if your website is your car to transport your business from A to B, from good to better, you want to be sure that this car is working the right way to get you there, right?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, making sites accessible makes it opens the door to everyone. So logically, you're going to have more conversion. You're going to have more visitors. You're going to have more potential customers. And so
I think you say about 10 to 25%. Is that
that's
something
the
that you,
potential. That's the
yeah,
absolute
potential?
potential of it.
Mm-hmm.
I was just talking to, what do you call these people? Those people that make glasses. When you go and buy glasses, opticians. I was going to a store for glasses. I have to get my eyes remeasured, and I want to get another funky pair of glasses. For people who don't know me yet, I always walk around with very colorful glasses, usually turquoise. um, and we were talking about it, and he had heard that I am active in accessibility, and he's like, "Yeah, who? I was so relieved that I do not have to oblige with that European Accessibility Act because your company has to be of a certain size and has to have a certain amount of turnover to be forced
Yeah.
into compliance." And I'm like, "Yeah, buddy, but your audience, they're usually around 40 plus. And you of all people should know at that age we start seeing less. So
Mm-hmm.
if the contrast on your website is crappy and the contrast on your competitor's website is not crappy, chances are that they will go onto your website, have trouble reading it. And this is not a conscious process. It's unconscious. When you're tired, you know that, Maestro, this feeling like at the end of the day, you're tired.
Yeah.
You've been watching your screen all day and you're looking at something on the web and you find the site with the information that you're looking for. But oh man, the titles, the how do you say, the font is very small, the contrast is lousy, or the contrast is too strong. This is officially too strong a contrast is not part of the guidelines, but hey, stark black on stark white.
Yeah.
Whew, right?
I agree with that. Simple.
So I told him, I said, "This is your business, man. And you are missing out on conversions on your website." And then the next thing was, "Yeah, but older people, I don't know if they come onto my website." And I'm like, "Well, older people love to use their smartphones. I think the generation that is between 50 and 65 uses
Mm-hmm.
their smartphone maybe even more intensive than the really young ones do." And he was like, "Yeah, you're right." So he's got some stuff to think about. And maybe now your listeners have some stuff to think about as well.
Oh, they gonna have some fucking things to think about. Yeah, y'all gonna have some things to think about today. You gonna learn today, is what Kevin Hart said.
Yeah, but it's like yeah, and yeah, speaking of being yourself, if you feel free enough to be yourself and you don't worry about whether people will judge that, it opens up so much space in your brain to get creative, to do things, and to focus on things. Because
Yep.
so many people are trying. This one is a one to think over. It's very hard to say this sentence in a quiet manner
Mm-hmm.
to follow, but I'm going to try. So a lot of people are trying to live up to an expectation that they think someone else has of them.
Yeah. That's real.
That's
That's real.
absolutely real. That is, and I mean, it happens to me too. But when you feel secure in what you do and what you know, and if you feel secure saying, "Hey, you asked me to do this for you, but I'm not sure if I know enough about it. Let me figure it out." If you're able to do that, business life and I mean also in personal life, things do lighten up.
And we need that. We definitely need things to lighten up because with everything we have to deal with, especially in the world of WordPress and because it's a big world, it's a big community.
Yeah.
Let alone all the other personal things that we have to deal with, and other you mentioned even business activities that we have
Hmm.
to deal with. But I definitely agree with you. We need things to lighten up, and I think that that helps also give people some understanding, but not just lighten up on the front that you're speaking of, but we need to have lighter websites as well too. All these
Right.
things can bog down our websites because we have too much of this. I think sometimes accessibility can help you not throw some things away if you don't. Sometimes you do need to throw some shit out the door,
Hmm.
say it in the trash. But sometimes you just need to put some things to the side and say, I'll get back to this later because I need my audience and my listeners, my visitors, my viewers, whoever, to be able to access this from the accessibility standards, but also just from an experience,
Hmm.
their own experience. So speaking of experience, I love the fact that you have some speaker or more than some speaker experience. And we're going to touch more on that in our last segment. It's just business. But for now, I wanted to do a quick kind of a lightning round so that way we have enough time for some of the other topics into our dope tech shit segment.
Dope tech shit.
And talk
Yeah.
about a little bit of the tech stack that you have. If you can quickly run down some of, you don't have to say everything, but just a few tools, because I know folks listening want to know what is Anne using on her shit? What is that dope shit? So, Anne, what do you have in your arsenal of tech? And it doesn't have to be accessibility focused, just anything.
Yeah. All right. So I'm working on a Mac, and I mentioned before, I hate repetitive tasks. They are eating up my time where I could be doing things that I think are more fun. And so then at some point, I was pining after my Windows machine that I ditched into 11 because on Windows I had something where I could automatically replace text and shortcuts and everything. And then on Mac, I discovered this application called Text Expander. So I went all crazy on Text Expander. It's an app where you can save code snippets, text snippets. You can even do scripts and stuff. And then you can call these up by just a letter combination or by typing part of that snippet, and it gives you, if you want, it'll give you a report every week how much time you saved. So at some point that became like playing golf with tech against myself, getting better.
Hmm.
And then at some point I saw someone on YouTube talking about something called a stream deck, and it's this device. It's from Elgato, where it has all kinds of buttons, and on the you can program these buttons to do things or to be folders with other buttons to do things. And these to do things for me is like, oh, people keep asking me like, oh, can you recommend this great plugin? It's another thing in my text app that you use for the accessibility of websites. And I'm like, yeah, I will use the accessibility checker from Equalize Digital.
Hmm.
So I
Yep.
programmed that on my Stream Deck. So when people ask me now, all I have to do is hit that button so I can share it in a chat. And I have CSS snippets in there, code snippets. I mean, I love working with variables and stuff, but I can't remember variables for the life of me. So the variables that I need for for example, what do you call that? Fluid typography.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I have them all on my Stream Deck because I'm very visually oriented. So that is part of my tech stack. And then I realized that with ChatGPT, I could ask ChatGPT to program a ton of very handy things for me in AppleScript. So I ended up asking ChatGPT, hey, can you create something for me where when I have a good idea for social media, I get this form that pops up and I type in my social media idea or the message or whatever. If I have the link to an image in a folder, I can whack that in too. This will flow into a CSV file. And at the end of the week, I can just upload this CSV file to my social media management tool. And suddenly I find myself with 10, 20, sometimes even more than 30 posts ready to be finished and to be planned in. This is why a lot of people think I am on social media every day, all day. I'm I'm not anymore. So it's these kinds of things, and yeah, I mentioned it before. My tech stack in WordPress. Well, the accessibility checker plugin, no doubt, and of course, great suite. I'm not going to say I turned my back on all the page builders, but I love that they're super close to core, and I can do everything with full site editing. And everything that you can't do with full site editing out of the box by WordPress itself, they extended it. So yeah, I love working with that. Um, yeah, and I do use AI a lot to help me order my brain. I am full of ideas, and now I just talk to it. I do take care, though, that I do not mention sensitive information. So I will never use company names or people names or whatever when I talk to ChatGPT
Okay.
because I don't trust it for the life of me with that kind of information. So um, that's one of the things I do not like about AI. You have to be aware of what you're doing because it's free, and even if you have the paid version, $20 a month is a joke for everything it can do for you. So you're still the product,
Yep.
even if you pay for it, and that makes me wary.
I think you have a very, very um, consolidated and automated and intentional tech stack
Yeah.
that you mentioned in the beginning about wanting to automate things,
Hmm.
and everything from having your physical, because you named, which I did like, and people who are listening, you need to catch on to that, and named two different types of tech. She went
Hmm.
from the physical to the digital.
Hmm.
Sometimes the physical, we call that gear.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Hmm.
And then we go into our digital tools. And I like that you bridged both together because you went, for example, from the Stream Deck, pressing a button on the Stream Deck to program something on the computer and to automate something else. So Stream Deck is helping you with automation, and then that automation is helping you with more automation.
Right. Yeah.
So these are little things that if you didn't pick up on that, I just wanted to remind the folks here, Anne is not just, just throwing out just tools willy-nilly that she uses, but no, she's very, very intentional with creating this workflow. And I remember, talking with her previously a while back, and she was saying, and I'm pretty much going to pick up on this as well too, and I'm just paraphrasing here. If I do something X amount of times, whether 3, 4, 5 times, I need to program that into my Stream Deck.
Yeah.
And I like that. I like that you said that. Was that close to what you were saying? I know I
Yeah.
probably.
Very much. Very
Okay.
much. No, you almost literally what I said. Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely. And it's also another good example is I don't use affiliate links much. I'm very, very, very picky who I want to have affiliate links from. But one of the people I have affiliate links from is the Alley Collective, A11Y Collective, which is a fantastic source for courses for accessibility. And one of the founders, he called me and he says, "And I see a ton of traffic coming from your website, but it's so strange. There's not so much affiliate stuff happening." And I'm like, "Yeah, Doc, I keep forgetting to share that affiliate link," which is stupid because I don't use affiliate income for myself. I use that to raise the how do you say that, the amount that I can sponsor open source
Okay.
developers and projects with. So that is also an example. Like, oh, I've got to put that affiliate link into my Stream Deck now, so I don't forget to share it instead of just typing it like a regular link.
And the price is going up, y'all. She said, "We gonna raise them rates, raise the amount. We trying to get that cash in, dollar bill, y'all."
Well, I mean, I'm really happy if I can support people creating the tools that I use and that I profit from. I mean, it's I think that's it's a segue into something completely else. We were talking about tech stack, but this is also related to tech stack because plugins are part of my tech stack, and I want to be able to support those people so they are willing to move on and to develop that stuff.
Shout outs to Grade Suite, for doing what they've been doing. I know that when we update our websites, we're going to be using a combination of a couple different tools, and Grade Suite is one of the, we'll say, top tools in our tech stack that we are going to be adding and integrating into our updates. And it was because of Anne, for those of y'all who didn't know, and I didn't mention it in the previous podcast with Thomas, but Anne is the one who introduced me to Great Suite and to Thomas. So for those of y'all who didn't know what the connection was, and you're listening to this episode, well, now you just connected those dots. Now you know it was because of Anne that
Oh,
when you see you use a tool like Built With, or a tool like Wapalizer to kind of see somebody's tech stack. These are cheat code tools. You can just use them for free. You'll see, hopefully, by the time you're listening to this episode in the future, that hey, those guys are using Grade too. Okay, well, you know it came from Anne. So
oh, cool.
there you go. But speaking of supporting, because I like that you said that, being very supportive, you have helped and support me during the time that we have known each other, and it feels like forever, but it's technically been a short period of time,
Yeah, true.
to be real. But we've known of each other for a longer period of time. It's just we just kept passing by each other.
I'll never forget. For the listeners, I'm at Maestro in the virtual hallways of, I think it was either the Page Builder Summit or it was the Atarim Web
Yeah, it was one
Summit.
of those. Yep.
I think it was Atarim. Oh, these people are so cool. They are, to me, they are the summum of automation because what they do is automate collaboration, automate processes, so you as an agency can grow your workflows, for example. And well, yeah, and I remember meeting you there, and I was like, wow, that guy has such great energy and has great things to say, and I want to follow him. So I was following Maestro. And then I remember I saw you at WordCamp Asia, and I was completely blazzed out because or how do you say, I had so much adrenaline in my system because
Yeah, me too.
of everything happening, and I think I was about to go give my talk. Yeah, I'm not sure. Anyway, I had a gazillion reasons why I didn't jump up there and say, "Hey, Maestro, blah, blah, blah," Yeah, and then I don't know. I think when did I write to you? A couple of months ago.
Yeah.
Pretty
Yep.
impulsively, like, I don't know. What did I write you about? Do you remember? I don't
It
even
was
know.
so random. I did expect it. It was just but it was very endearing. It was just, hey, we ran into each other a few times. you were at work in Asia. I was there, and we didn't get a chance to speak. You said you wanted to speak to me, and then you said, "Hey, let's just meet up and talk." And
Yeah, let's do a digital coffee.
yeah,
But that's
digital.
yeah,
Yep,
but I
yep.
do know why I did that because you are everywhere. And I can tell the folks who are listening who just ran into Maestro for the first time, don't let him fool you, people, because he is everywhere. And you might run into his stuff on YouTube or in blogs or in interviews and podcasts. And maybe you think like, hey, but that's strange. That one video only had a couple of views. Well, YouTube lies. He's
Yeah.
every. I remember talking to you, talking about you, when I was in Munich, and I was talking to the people from Grade. Like, man, you guys, you gotta meet Maestro Stevens. He's just. He also knows how to do Excel because the CEO of Great Suite is a very very talented businessman.
Hmm.
Something that I admire. I see a lot of developers that create great stuff and great plugins, but what their company lacks is guidance, a
Mm,
captain at the wheel
mm,
who runs that business like nothing else. And Mark always jokes, he's like, "Hey, you guys know WordPress, but man, I know Excel, right?"
mm.
And
Yeah.
so I introduced you to Mark. I was talking about you, and I said, "You know what? That guy knows WordPress and Excel."
I don't want to get too much. I'm still a student in a lot of these things, myself. So, but I'm grateful to have people like yourself in this community in general who are able to inspire and uplift at the same time. Every now and then giving some props because we all like to. We don't want to toot our own horns, but it does help when somebody goes toot toot. When they
Yeah,
press the button themselves, and that
yeah.
does help keep
Well, I
us
mean,
going.
modesty is good, but at the end of the day, I think we always feel that we are still learning. I don't think people should lose that feeling. I mean, anyone
Yeah.
coming up to me saying, "I know everything," so, I'm just going to laugh like I do now. And um, I mean, even my dad, come on, man. He was an Oscar winning animator, right? So in 1978, his first free work got a nomination, and his second project won an Oscar. And when he was 91, yeah, he decided for their pension and for their income that he would auction off some of his stuff, some of his drawings. And in Japan, there's a big market for animation stuff. So he had to go through his whole life, his whole stuff, everything he had drawn, he had created. And I'll never forget seeing this guy sitting there saying, "Man, I was good." And I'm like, "Why do you say that?" And he's like, "I never thought it was good enough. Never."
Mm,
That's insane.
that is.
I think he won like more than 40 awards in his life, and he still thought he didn't know everything, and he still developed new skills in his line of work even when he was way in his 70s. So yeah,
That's huge.
but I'm just telling the others, Maestro is he knows what he's doing.
I appreciate that, Anne. Unfortunately, this episode is not about me. This is all about you.
Oh.
And I appreciate everything you are saying, but I want to make sure we keep you as the forefront, as the focus, as the highlight of this episode because, that's what you are to a lot of people out there. And I want to use my platform to amplify that as much as possible to radiate that because you already have that sunlight
Oh, thank
of
you.
yours that shines through a lot of the thickness, the brush, the bushes, the darkness, the shadows, the clouds. You need people out there that can shine through that, and it doesn't always mean that the person is always going to be happy go lucky and just sometimes fake, in my opinion. But let's
Hmm.
move into, because you've mentioned the word business a few times in our last segment before we wrap it up.
I'm sorry. I'm really sorry for it was just business. I'm a professional.
That's what everybody keeps saying. I'm just a professional. Everybody keeps saying it.
Because we spent a little bit of extra time, which makes sense in the website accessibility space. I want to get your opinion and about, let's say, 1 to 2 minutes of,
Hmm.
because, well, first, before I ask the question, just know that Anne is also proficient and she does consulting and mentorship as well. So I mentioned speaking in the beginning, so I want to connect that and tie that back together to this part here. She's a consultant, she's a mentor, she's a speaker, an international speaker. Let me put some respect on her name. And so, with that being said, and you mentioning business a few times, what is the best advice on, and I don't want to say, let me take it back. I don't want to say the word best, because best we can get long-winded when we have best. So what
Hmm.
is good? Let's say good. What is good advice for others who want to speak, who want to become a speaker, who want to get into consulting, who want to mentor, that you could give them to leave them with while we wrap up this episode? What is just the best advice or good advice? Again, let me say good advice that you can give people who want to get into consulting or who want to become a mentor, or you can reverse it, who are being mentored? What's some good advice you would give them?
Try and dive into yourself, asking yourself whether that what's holding you back of doing that is imposter syndrome, or you're really not sure if you know something. So I've been holding back on doing this for a long time, if you look at my career. And at some point, I just decided, like, I've been talking and saying this thing over and over and over again. And every time it hits home. So there's something to it. Let's put it out there. So that's what I did. And I know a lot of people, and I do too, still, feel like, when are they going to catch me and say to me, oh man, you're full of shit? All right.
Yeah.
Um, but I noticed that that happened actually almost never, maybe never. I can't remember anyone coming up to me and saying, you don't know what you're talking about. I'm going to disprove or prove you wrong on everything you say. A second thing I can say is that if you understand that whatever you're doing when you're guiding people or when you're speaking or when you're consulting, because you're putting me in front of a challenge here, Maestro, because you're asking me to give one red line through three different disciplines, right?
Hmm.
Um,
And you got 1 minute. If you can put in 60 seconds, that would be great.
well, it's always a dialogue. Never forget that things are a dialogue. Whether you're speaking, whether you're consulting, whether you are guiding, it's a dialogue, because a teacher learns the most from his students or her students. And that's where I'm going to leave it at.
And this has been a dialogue too, which I love. And can you tell people, and thank you again, Anne, for everything, but can you tell people where they can find you?
Yeah, okay. Well, let me spell my last name. My last name is spelled B-O, like Bernard, Otto, Venice, Edward, Leonard, Edward, Theodore, Theodore, like Bovelett. It's like a French last name.
Mm-hmm.
And under that handle, you can find me on Twitter. If you type in Anne Bovelett, you will find more than one link about me. AnneBovelett.eu is my website. And when you get onto that and you're like, hey, I want to talk to her, I have questions or whatever, there's a big button on my website inviting you for digital coffee. So just do me a favor and also write me an email if I don't know you yet and tell me, hey, I want to talk to you or something, or I have questions. And because I do digital coffee a lot, like half a day a week at least, um, just because I like to meet new people and hear what they're working on and exchange. And I think that's very important.
Are these
So
free coffee sessions, or is there a cost to it?
there's the if it's just digital coffee, getting to know each other, it's like half an hour. That is free of charge. Of course, if that results in you wanting me to guide you or coach you, yeah, then it's going to have a cost attached to it. But initial talks are always free of charge because charging for an initial talk, are you crazy?
Some people are.
I know. Yeah. I know some people do that and I understand it. You have to draw a line somewhere, but I'd like to be as accessible to people as possible.
I love it.
So, yeah.
I love it. See how we connected the dots there, people? Once again. Yeah.
I have friends who say, yeah, and you drive us crazy. All you do is talk is about accessibility.
That's how you know that she is an expert when she eats, sleeps, drinks,
I'm an
prays.
advocate. I'm not an expert. This is something I do get uncomfortable with.
Okay.
I like it when people call me a specialist or something,
Specialist.
but then you have to think specialist in what? Specialist in making you think about accessibility. Specialist in accessible design. Because I'm not a developer, for example. So I'm not a development specialist. So saying someone is an accessibility expert, I always think that's kind of risky because what defines that? And this has nothing to do with imposter syndrome or anything, but I think to fully understand what accessibility means and what it is, you have to understand the group that it affects, and you can't be any part of that group at the same time. I mean, if you have all your faculties, you're lucky.
Yeah.
Is that the right thing? The faculty? I don't know if that's an offending expression, but I mean, if you can see well, if you can hear well, if you don't have any physical issues, you're blessed. And of course, when we get older, it's never a question of if we get disabilities. It's about when.
Yeah.
Because it
You're right
comes
about
with
that.
age.
And to your point, I'll retract or redact that part, because sometimes I do feel very similar and say, would subject matter specialist or subject matter expert, would that be more appropriate in the situation?
Yeah, just I usually call myself a specialist, or even better, an advocate.
Okay.
I like to call it that. And I've been talking to my peers. I mean, I have heroes in my line of work as well, and all I hear from them, I've been at this for 4 years. Some of them have been at this for 25 years. And even they are saying we learn every day, which also makes this a very nice niche or segment to be in. It shouldn't be a niche. It should be everywhere.
It should be. You're right. But no, I'm definitely with you on that. And I will make sure publicly that I'm very conscious of that. But behind the closed doors, I'm gonna put it like this: I'm telling people you're the expert. Shit, because they're not gonna move the needle if I say, oh, she's an advocate. Like, oh, she's like everybody else. Shit, like dog, you need to talk to Ann. You need to, hey, you know what I mean? Like, you tell her what I told you. You better not say tell her I told you she was an expert. Just say she's an advocate, but I'm just letting you know she know her shit. All right. Because I gotta
That's
refer
cool.
people to you. I want to make them.
All
I don't want them to
right.
question one bit, because you know how people get. We don't say certain words and the things in private. In our referral
Mm,
intermediate circle, people just what do they put the nose up. They put the
yeah.
and I can't stand that. And I'm the same way when it comes to AI, especially in me really starting to focus on AI a lot more. I'm no expert in it, but I do know, and I have had referral partners, and especially with these workshops I'm doing, they'll position me as the expert, and I'll be like,
Yeah.
no, don't do that. But then I understand to an extent that that's what gets people to come to the workshop. That's what gets people to come to whatever, or understand that this person knows what they know. But I definitely agree
Yeah.
with you on that. I 100% agree with you on that.
Yeah. Thank you.
Is there anybody before we wrap it up that you want to shout out real quick, since you already said where they can find you? If there's not anybody you want to shout out, don't worry about it. Shit, just keep all the glory to yourself, because that's
No,
okay.
I have a massive shout out. All right, so I have not one but two shout outs. In Dutch we say give them one finger and they're going to take your entire hand. Well, that's me doing that now. The first shout out that I have is actually not to a person, but to a whole group of persons. It's the people. It's the people behind WordPress Accessibility Day. This is happening next week. It's 24 hours of online webinars, presentations about accessibility, and it is super accessible in a sense that it has all kinds of subjects in all disciplines in creating websites. And I can recommend you go and watch that. And the people behind it, they are fantastic. You will learn more about them if you haven't heard of them. It's Equalize Digital. It is Beth Hannon. It is Joe Dawson, Jen Harris, so many more. Yeah, and the second thing is a new kid on the block where it comes to online impressive events, and that would be Anyone Can WP. It's also on that link, anyonecanwp.com. It's world's first WordPress online hackathon, and I've had the honor. How do you say that?
She's the judge, the jury, and the executioner. Yeah, I'm just joking.
Oh no! Oh, come on, Maestro.
I'm just joking.
You're. It's good we're not on camera because my head is like red as a beet right now. But yeah, I've been invited the jury, and I was super honored by that. The initiative has been taken by InstaWP, and I'm on the same team as Miriam Schwab from Elementor, Kevin Geary, who doesn't know Kevin, Jamie Marsland, who is relentlessly teaching us about using the block editor, which I love a lot, and Davinder Singh Kind, who is running a fantastic newsletter. And I've had the honor of meeting him in WordCamp Asia this year, and I was so happy because this is a thing about the WordPress community. Sometimes you know people for a long time when you haven't met them in real life. And then when you go to one of those big WordCamps and they're all hopping around, it feels like you're going to this reunion of family and friends you didn't know you had.
That's true.
So I really love that. So yeah,
shout outs.
That was my extensive shout out.
I love it. Shout outs to Website Accessibility Day, and shout outs to Anyone Could WP with Insta WP as well.
Yes.
And yes, Anne is a part of the jury. She is not the executioner, y'all. I just wanted to toss a little joke in there. But it is dope to be able to see her amongst other notable, incredible people in the WordPress community. She's already named the name, so I don't have to repeat myself or repeat her. And pretty much, I believe it's the 5 of them. I like that because it means that somebody has to be the break even. They have to split the tie. And that may be Anne. It may be somebody else. This is going to be a great opportunity for you guys to check out. If you haven't, and hopefully you all got some value out of this episode. We have talked about a lot of things, and we touched on website accessibility from, we'll call it a C grade, C-level student perspective, because Anne could really go in and dive in. But for those of y'all who are listening to this, that's probably not your forte, and I want to encourage you to follow Anne. She's giving you her socials and her contact and how she wants to be contacted, and And she also warned those of you all who want to talk to her about coding and all that other shit. Nah, she don't want to hear it no more. Y'all got to know y'all shit. And before you get to her, and you better be using Grade Suite or something that is full site
Oh.
editing ready, and let her do her thing.
Yeah, you could put it like that. Of course, there are. I'm not saying there aren't any other tools.
No, we're not saying that. We're not saying
that
that,
aren't
but it's
good. This is really directed at the dozens of people that write me every week on LinkedIn asking me if they can collaborate with me. Or if I have work for them, if I have projects for them.
And that's another place too. Make sure you guys tap into her on LinkedIn. Connect with her on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
It's a wrap, y'all. I want to thank my special guest, Anne, for coming through. And I want to thank y'all for listening in. If this was an episode for you that you felt you could relate to, please write a review. If you believe somebody else could use this episode, please share it with them. I appreciate y'all. I love y'all. Stay tuned for the next episode of Meet the Plug. Let's get out of here. But first, let me plug in that outro. Meet the plug, meet the plug, meet the plug, meet the plug.
Is this what you want? Fire!
Say another motherfucking word and this shit is over. And I ain't playing, nigga.